On today's episode, we're going to answer your questions about PMAs. Stay tuned.
There aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Hey, what's up everyone? Aaron here. Thanks for coming by and checking out another video or listening to the podcast version of this. Regardless of where you're consuming this from, please like and subscribe so you're notified of when I drop more videos or audio. Now, like I said today, we're going to be talking about the questions you all leave in the chat. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions basically here that we're going to go over in regards to PMAs. So the first one comes from Kim, and she's asking, a PHA, is that for holistic healing type association? I'm a Reiki master and I want to start a private member association for my practice. Thank you for your information. So that is exactly what PHAs are set up for. A private health association is just that. It's geared more towards health than it would be for education or just a generalized type of PMA or ministry. So that allows you to work with your members, and you can use different terminology than you would if you were in more of a traditional type setting. Where you don't want to cross the line is offering something that's never been tested. And what I mean by that is if somebody comes in, and this is something that I use all the time when I talk with people on the phone, if I came into your practice and said, man, I've got this killer headache, I'm looking for an alternative way to take, to fix it or take care of it rather than take, Tylenol, ibuprofen, or whatever the case may be. And you're like, listen, I got you. I got this new, pill. It's going to solve all your problems. It's half fentanyl, half cocaine. It's going to knock your headache right out of the park. Might do that, but it also might kill me. So that is where that substantial threat or substantial evil comes in to play when we're talking about private membership associations or private health associations. And we've seen some fail because people said one thing and then they did something else. So one example is a guy created a laser device in his basement. And if I can find the court case, I'll put it in the comments down below. But basically he created this laser device in his basement, was selling it to his members. It was never tested, never went through any trials or anything like that. And because there's certain acts in place by the FDA, certain things need to be approved. Now, so he lost his case basically, trying to use the right of association for basically prescribing something that's never been tested on anybody, right? Which doesn't make a lot of sense. So, if you're telling somebody, hey, take dandelion root for this or elderberry syrup for an upper respiratory problems or anything like that, as long as you're using what they call alternative medicine, which was mainstream medicine before pharmaceuticals came along, you're going to be fine. But again, just make sure you're not breaking any laws and you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Great question though. Question 2 comes from Brenda Hill. Hi, if you put your home in a PMA, does that protect you from property taxes? Do you have a class where you teach people how to operate in a PMA? Thank you for your response. So Brenda, I might have even already answered some of these online, but depending on what type of PMA you have the option to put that property into that PMA. Now, this varies from state to state because some states allow PMAs in their PMA name to hold the property. In other states, it's the trustees of the PMA that would sign the warranty deed or the quitclaim to the property. Now, the only time you probably would get any type of tax break or benefit is if you have a faith-based association or a ministry set up, an unincorporated ministry, because those two entities, we'll call them, or those two setups fall under the 508c1a tax code from the IRS. So you could, in fact, get your property off the tax roll just like any other church in the area. So great question. For the second part of your question, do I have classes where you teach people how to operate in a PMA? Unfortunately, I don't. I'm working on putting something together for teachables. But as of right now, this is probably your best source, or, just leave another comment with questions, or my contact information is down below. You can always reach out to me there. Now, the next question comes from American Made Goods. PMA for flight air service, charter, or otherwise business. Now, I've gotten this question asked a few times, and it would be great to see a PMA that is an airline, that it's only set up for members. And there might be a way to do it. I personally don't know, because you have to interact with the FAA regardless. So even if you are private, let's say you have a private business structure set up as a PMA for only your members. One, I think it would limit your membership because not everybody's flying every day, right? And two, you'd have to be dealing with the FAA. So I don't think in that aspect, a PMA makes a lot of sense. And I've told a lot of people before that PMAs don't fit every situation, like this one, for example. There are a lot of instances where PMAs make sense, and there's some where they don't. Another one I get asked is like real estate. Now, I do real estate in Connecticut. As a realtor, I've had rentals in the past, and for me, it doesn't make sense looking at it from a monetary type point of view, because now I'm not going to have access to the MLS. I'm not going to have access to the majority of people looking to buy and sell. I can only work with members. And then I'm now trying to explain to people that want to work with me, hey, you have to join my PMA for me to help you sell, and I can only sell houses within the PMA. It just doesn't make sense, right? So something like this, unfortunately, American made goods, I don't think you're going to have much luck trying to set up some type of air travel for the private side of things. Let's see, Brian, what is the best way to start a 508c1a and a PMA? So this is another great question, because a lot of people get bad information on the internet and think that the 508c1a is an actual entity, and it's not. All it is tax code. It's not anything like an LLC or an S corp or a PMA or an unincorporated business trust or an irrevocable trust or a living trust. It's just referencing tax code. So if you're a church, synagogue, outpost, and there's a whole bunch of other aspects of it, you are automatically tax exempt in the eyes of the IRS. Now, keep in mind, you have to be operating properly. You can't just use the veil of ministry or a faith-based association and say, oh no, I have religious exemption, or not religious exemption, but I'm tax exempt because we're this type of organization. If you can't prove that you're actually operating like that, and you're just using what they call the veil of it, you're defrauding people, and two, you're gonna lose if you have any court cases that come up based on your operating of a religious type organization. Great question. And I really appreciate these questions. I try to answer some of these online, but sometimes it's just easier to do a video. I'm going to start doing this more, especially with questions like this, because I think it's just easier to answer it in a video type format than trying to type paragraphs about your answer. So anyways, keep the questions coming. It's great. I appreciate it. We got Richard here. Hey dude, don't give up. You're doing God's work. Free the people, brother. Well, thank you for that one. It wasn't really a question, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Richard. I really appreciate all of you that take your time out of your day to get off TikTok or Facebook or whatever you're on and to watch the videos that I produce and put together. This does take time, and I do truly appreciate seeing comments like that. Next question comes from Vivian Evans. Can a PMA accept monetary donations? Is it tax deductible for the donor? Thanks. Another great question. I get this one a lot. So there's a little caveat to this. The quick answer is yes. Now, that being said, you want to make sure that you're not providing any goods or services. So if you're, selling raw milk or free range eggs and they're paying you $5 or whatever you charge, that is not a donation because they're receiving a good or a service. So if you're doing massage therapy or something like that and you have a private health association set up. So then I try to explain that to people that way, that, just keep in mind, no goods or services, right? If somebody wants to give you $50 because they like the work that you're doing, they can give you a donation of $50. You can give them a receipt for that. And yes, they could then deduct that from their taxes as a charitable donation. Now, some people say, well, if I go to church and I'm listening to the pastor or the preacher up there talk and I put money in the collection plate and I write that off at the end of the year, isn't that a donation? I'm receiving a service for it. Literally you're sitting in service. No, because anybody could come in off the street and sit in that church pew and listen to the sermon and not have to put any money in that collection plate. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, if you were providing, let's say you're doing a fundraiser or you're doing something where you're offering a product. So I like to use the example of PBS when they used to do telethons. I don't even know if they still do anymore, but you donate, $50 and you get a tote bag with PBS on it or whatever, right? the tote bag might be worth $25 and you're doing a $25 donation for $50. So really all you're able to write off is that $25 because the other $25 goes to the purchase of that tote bag. So you can do things like that, but just keep in mind, you want to make sure you're documenting everything and that you are, issuing receipts for any types of donations or anything like that. But great question. Thank you very much. Frank says, does a PMA need a trust? So this is another topic of discussion that comes up very often in phone calls or consultations when I'm talking with people. Technically, no, you don't need a trust for anything. Now, there's a bunch of different trusts out there, everything from a living trust to revocable, irrevocable, unincorporated business trust. I can say that easily enough. And then you have also asset protection trusts in some states and then also offshore. So there are other associations out there that are held in a trust. For example, Liberty Dollar Financial Association is held in a unincorporated business trust. So that trust basically has the asset that is that PMA. So you could set it up like that. It's just another way to cloud who owns what and to give you a little bit more privacy. If you're looking at straight asset protection, I would look into asset protection trusts, specifically offshore, because like here in Connecticut, you could have an asset protection trust, but the assets have to sit in that trust for 5 years before they become protected. So within that 5-year mark, a creditor could come after you, you could be sued for whatever's in that trust, so on and so forth. And then also keep in mind the difference between revocable and irrevocable. So if it's a revocable trust, you can take it back, you can change it, so on and so forth. If you happen to go to court, the judge could say, oh no, you're still alive, with this revocable trust, you need to change it to pay this person. An irrevocable trust, that's a lot harder to do. It's not impossible, but there's a lot more steps to it. So technically no, but it doesn't hurt. You can put it into a trust of your choice. Just keep that in mind that everybody's situation is different. So you want to make sure that you are doing what's best for you and, basically don't just do it because somebody else says so. Kind of figure out what you're looking to do and why you want to put it into a trust and what you're trying to protect and that sort of thing. And then the last one comes from Love Revolution. Resources for writing foundation docs and articles of association, examples, etc. would be great. Thanks. Another question I get asked a lot, either on videos or in Telegram groups. Hey, where can I get copies of a association? Where can I get some examples? I want to write my own. So here's the thing. The documents that I create are, I don't share them with anybody, right? Because everybody's situation is unique. Now, there are plenty of places you can go online and you could find PMAs from $275 to $10,000. Some are statutory compliant, some are non-statutory compliant. The thing is that some of them, like the $275 one, has a very sketchy website, and they get into a lot of different things like state nationals and the UCC and all this other stuff, secured party creditors and whatnot. So I don't know what you're going to be getting with that. And because each person's reason for having a PMA, we'll just use PMA as an all, whether it's a ministry or education or what have you, each person's different and they have different reasons and different needs. So it's tailored to that person. So unfortunately, there really isn't. However, you can start by reading this, your state constitution, the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, maybe start looking at some case law in your state if you really want to do all the legwork yourself. And then I would even, if you're looking for examples, go check out, Clearphone and Freedom Phone. They actually are PMAs themselves and running as a cell phone company as a PMA. And they have, I think, their membership agreement maybe online or their bylaws. So that might be a place where you can kind of look. But again, it needs to be tailored to the individual. So I don't provide examples or templates or anything like that. The only type of template I do provide is a unincorporated business trust, which you can kind of fill in the blanks. But even that I would take to an attorney and have them look at if you're not 100% sure on what you're doing. So Those are some great questions. I really appreciate them. Keep them coming. Let me know in the comments down below if you like this type of video where I'm answering your questions, because this was fun to do. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed reading the questions that you all have put in there. So keep those coming. Let me know if you want to see another video like this. And in the future videos, I did get a request for Amos Farms. That was set up as a PMA and that's had some legal battles over the last few years to go over that case. So we're going to definitely tackle that in the future. I'm having a real hard time talking today because I haven't done a video, it feels like, in a while. And we're also going to start looking at some different court cases that deal with PMAs and where they've failed, where they've succeeded. And on the win column, we actually had a win here in Connecticut for a private education association. They are a ministry, but they were educating the students, the member students or the members' kids in class. I don't know how you want to word that, but basically it was a win for us through the state's attorney. You know, the state came after this PEA. Actually going to have her on hopefully for a video interview where she can explain everything and we can get into more details about it. But there are actually, I'll tease this a little bit, I guess, there's actually 6 other states that have the same religious exemption, we'll call it, for education as Connecticut. But stay tuned for that video. That one will be coming shortly. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a great day. Again, if you have questions, let me know. All my contact information is down below. Peace, and we'll see you on the next video.